no doubt you will be surprised to hear that reconciliation did not work. Surprise! Reconciliation did not work, and I have now been proven correct in my belief that my wife has been lying to me, and everyone else, for the most of the last year. I told you so, you're welcome to say it any time. My daughter's birthday occurred over the weekend, and my wife made a public statement about it on Facebook. Her assistant made a remark on the post. The messaging between him and my wife lasted for 2 days as a result of this. The fact that he contacted me was confirmed by her, but she would only provide a general description as to the subject of their communication and said that it was just 1 or 2 texts. She would inform me that he is inquiring about the age of our daughter, and so on. However, she has been carrying her phone around the home with her for the last 2 days and responding to incoming messages as quickly as she did during her affair in the summer of 2014. She hasn't handed me her phone yet, and she isn't aware that I was able to figure out her PIN number from her phone. She is very predictable in her choices of passcodes. Things started to become a little flirtatious, and they began to make references to previous events that had occurred between them. There isn't anything that stands out as a smoking gun. During this call, he said that he was staying at home on Monday and Tuesday owing to the severe weather conditions in the area and the fact that he was working outdoors. After the kids have gone to bed on Monday night, she decides to color her hair a different color. I felt this was unusual since she had just finished it before Christmas and it wasn't all that horrible to begin with. In addition, she has returned to working from home, so who has anything to impress her with? During the late night hours, she was in the bathroom for well over an hour, performing this and other grooming. I went to bed at 11:30 p.m. and asked if I may come in to wash my hands before bed since I was tired. She responded no and slid my toothbrush out through a gap in the door, out of sight. When I inquired as to what she was doing in there for such a lengthy period of time, she said sarcastically, "I'm getting ready for you." Right. Sure. When I found out that AP had tomorrow off, I instantly associated it with her spending an hour or more in the bathroom grooming herself. In order to readily detect if she had traveled anywhere throughout the day on Tuesday, before I left for work, I reset the trip odometer in her vehicle before leaving for work. As I go out the door, she's sitting in her customary sweatpants in front of the computer. During the day, she sends me a text message informing me that she would be taking a sleep at lunch. My wife has changed into a low-cut top and a full face of makeup while I was at work. When I get home from work, she has already changed. When I inquire as to the significance of the breast shirt, she deflects the topic. As a result of her frequent visits to a local bar when our son is engaged, I assumed she would have changed her mind about taking him to his activity tonight, but instead she goes and puts on a new long-sleeve sweatshirt after dinner and leaves the house. So what's the deal with the breast shirt throughout the day? I take a peek at the car's trip counter, and sure enough, there are 5.5 kilometers on it. When I asked her about her day, she didn't say that she was going anyplace. I assumed they had gone out to lunch since a certain restaurant is 2.5 kilometers distant plus an additional kilometer. AP will be picked up in 5 kilometers, yes, he lives that close to use, 7-minute walk. It turns out that I was just slightly off base. Instead of eating lunch, she went to get some tea and then went to his residence, where she watched TV and had sex. At long last, justice has been served. My feelings are really not that wounded at all. I had low expectations to begin with based on her lack of remorse, blame shifting, and outright lying. I have a sigh of relief, knowing that I am not, in fact, going insane. I put in my best effort, and then she goes and does this. I'm disappointed. It's over, and I mean that in the best possible way. Earlier in the weekend, she had inquired as to what I needed to do in order for you not to divorce me. That's simple, I just said that we should not welcome other males into our relationship. We've come to this point after 2 days. At this point, I don't even believe it's worth it to try to reason with her. I'm not going to tell her how I found out all of this information. In the meanwhile, I'm going to wait a couple of days, and then on Friday, after work, I'm going to go to a friend's home and remain there until at least Monday morning. I'll send her a text message on Friday afternoon to let her know what I'm planning. Not even giving her a chance to dribble her poison into my ear is something I'm willing to do. I'm going to block her so she won't be able to contact me in the first place. I'm considering informing her mother, father, and sister as well as her. At this point, only her sister and father are aware of the scenario, which she describes as all a dream and nothing more on the internet and solely from her perspective. Ideally, I'd say something along the lines of, "I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but, name, has been lying to me and to you the whole time." Despite our efforts to reconcile, she met, name, on Tuesday and had sexual relations with him. I'm going to start the divorce process. Thank you for including me as a member of your family and for your many previous acts of kindness. Please be there for her and the children through whatever comes next. Have a good time in your life. To this point, no one has heard a word from me regarding this scenario, and so I'd want to question her control of the narrative in a little way, particularly among people who are closest to us. At the very least, I can claim that I tried. Despite my lack of hope, I was making an honest effort, and even she acknowledged that things were improving when she spoke to me and some of her friends. Then she goes back to her room and does it all over again. It is impossible for me to bear any guilt for my wife's infidelity now, since I have dedicated myself to reconciliation while she has obviously chosen not to do so. This time, though, the blame is on her shoulders. And with that, I'm finished. I shall not be making any additional attempts on her behalf in the future. She has plainly proved that she is just not worth the time and energy invested. Story 2. My wife's affair caused me to lose trust. My lover is 37 years old, and I am 39 years old at the time of this writing. I was a victim of infidelity in my first marriage in 2012, which ended when my ex-wife became pregnant with another man's child. I also have a history of adultery, which dates back to my teenage years. I met the lady who would eventually become my current wife in July of 2014. I was shocked when she admitted to me that she had had sexual contact with a married man who was 48 years old and who happened to be her boss's boss at work in late 2012, when we were just getting started in our relationship. He would plan cross-country trips for him and her to go on business together, and he would book hotel rooms all across our community for the duration of their affair. His wife, who is 48 years old, was never told of his location in the first place. Upon asking my significant other whether this particular individual was still in her life, she said affirmatively. When she responded in the yes, we continued our relationship, which culminated in our engagement in July 2015. It was in September 2015 that I found her chatting with someone who I didn't know was taking place. It eventually comes out that this affair partner was the one who was guilty. I started to push myself a bit farther. The fact is, due of his position of seniority inside the organization, she saw him as a kind of mentor for herself. She even organized a number of get-togethers with him over the course of the preceding year, with the goal of talking and guiding. She told me that she would be attending one of these get-togethers in July 2015 and that she will be having dinner with her co-workers. Eventually, it was discovered that she had met him at a bar in order to discuss a potential career possibility she was considering at the time. When I looked over their emails in preparation for the get-together, I saw that they were playful about what she would be wearing and that they had a lot of happy faces. Then I saw that both the AP and his wife had been invited to our wedding, which was a pleasant surprise to me. We had only been engaged for 2 months at the time. I was taken aback. She insists that throughout all of these many get-togethers that occurred during our relationship, they just spoke about business and that there was no sexual contact between them at any point. The fact that she was afraid I wouldn't understand what had happened made her hesitant to tell me about her encounter with the man she had met on the street. After becoming aware of the ongoing correspondence and meetings, I immediately demanded that she discontinue all contact with me. She cooperated and sent him an email notifying him that they would never talk again and that she had barred him from using the social networking site LinkedIn. Since September 15th, she hasn't interacted with anybody, at least as far as I can tell. During this period, I spent a large amount of time in therapy. Throughout my time with her, it was unclear to me whether or not their relationship was sexual in nature, but it seemed to me that it was. She told me that there was no sex involved with these get-togethers, but I couldn't bring myself to accept her word for it. Now fast forward 7 years, and I'm still anxious about their future as a married couple. I'm being forced to take an SSRI in order to cope. Some days I get all worked up and lash out at her, asking why she would lie to me about her connection with this specific person in the first place. She has maintained that there was no sexual activity between us throughout our time together. The following are the questions I have. Should I get in touch with the AP's wife? She is still fully oblivious of the events that led to this romantic encounter with him. It doesn't seem to be in her best interests. If it were me, I'd be curious to find out who it was. In addition, I'd want the AP to be able to share in some of the suffering I've been through in some capacity. What can I do to go on in my relationship while still getting over my wife's love for this man? What can I do to help? According to my knowledge, my wife has stayed loyal to me since the day of our wedding ceremony. However, after seeing her make false statements about this particular individual, I am having difficulty putting my trust in her. The sexual images of him and her that have been consuming my mind would be much appreciated if you could provide me some pointers on how to do so.